Did you guys all hear that? He just said, buy no new games in 2019. Welcome to Cardboard and Wine, episode 21. I'm Mamie.
And I'm Josh.
Grab a glass, pull up a chair, and let's talk about some games.
Today on the show, we discuss the 112 games we played in 2018, or at least the top 5.
Happy New Year, Josh.
Happy New Year.
We are now officially in 2019.
Our second year of the Cardboard and Wine podcast.
Sometimes that seems a little crazy.
Yeah, did you think we would still be doing this a year later?
Yeah. We're people who stick to things.
Yeah, it's been a really awesome year of gaming for us. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute as I was looking at some of our stats from 2018. But yeah, we started a podcast this year.
Yeah, it's been a good, big year for gaming for our family.
Definitely. So before we jump into that, why don't you tell us a little bit about this wine that you picked up for us?
Yeah, so I have sort of a special wine for tonight. This is actually a very good bottle of wine from the wine store, not from Target.
Oh, this is a welcome change.
This is the 2016 California Zinfandel. It's from the Tortoise Creek Winery, which is in the Lodi region in California.
I like the Lodi region.
Yeah, and this one is called the Colonian. Now,
is that Colonian like colonial?
No. It's spelled Chelonian. Now, I'm going to give you a hint here. You're a scientist, but do you have any idea what Colonian might mean?
Well, I'm familiar with the word chelate.
What does that mean? I don't know that one.
Chelate has to do with chelator binds a metal ion or atom. Is that what this means?
Yeah, no. So Colonian has nothing to do with that. Colonian is actually the genus name for the tortoise.
Oh, see, I'm not that kind of scientist.
I know. So this,
I'm a molecular biologist, not an organismal biologist.
That's true. So this is from Tortoise Creek Winery, and this is called the Colonian. And the really cool thing about this that I learned online when I was researching it is that a portion of the proceeds from every bottle that they sell goes to the Colonian Research Foundation, which benefits conservation of turtles and tortoises.
Well, who doesn't want to save a turtle?
Exactly. So not only is this wine delicious, I mean, I think it's delicious,
Very good.
but it not only tastes good, it does good.
Well, that's really cool. Well, we might have this one. I think you got it at our local wine store, so we'll have to get more.
Yeah, it is delicious.
Yeah, I will say one thing I like about this wine that I feel like you sometimes get with a better glass of wine is it's very flavorful, first of all, like a Zinfandel. It's very bold, but it almost has this softness to it. It is not harsh at all. Do you get that too?
It's not too tannic.
Yeah, soft is the only way I can think to explain it.
No, it's rounded, which maybe is the same as soft, but there's a lot of flavor there and a lot of complexity, but it all melds together in a really smooth way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will certainly enjoy this, and what a great way to celebrate the new year.
That's right. Cheers.
Cheers. All right, Mamie. Well, before we jump into our top new games of 2018, we've been playing a lot of games. So have you had any gaming moments since our last show that have stood out to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been on winter break, which has been wonderful. So we've been able to play quite a bit. I will say we got a couple of games as part of our Christmas celebration. Memorable among those, one of the ones that stands out to me is a game that the kids and I actually got you for Christmas, Chick-a-Pig.
Yeah, been loving Chick-a-Pig. This was one that just randomly crossed my radar. I think it was on Instagram. That's where I first saw it.
And apparently our kids have seen it in YouTube videos that they watch.
Yeah, and this is not a big release. So this is a game that is independently published by a guy in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is not too far from where we grew up. And Charlottesville is also the hometown of Dave Matthews, who you may have heard of.
Yeah, we've been to a couple of his shows.
Yeah, probably 6 or 7 at least. So anyway, this is this guy who created Chick-a-Pig is a luthier, meaning he makes instruments, including acoustic instruments like guitars. So he also is very good at working with wood. And so all of these games have these laser cut wooden pieces of these Chickapigs, which are
Half
very cute.
chicken, half pig, of course.
And there's a cow, and apparently the cows are all handmade or painted by his mom.
Really?
Apparently.
That's amazing.
But, I would say Chickapig is akin to a cross between Checkers and...
Pooping cows?
Yeah.
The whole concept is that you are trying to move your Chickapig across the board to the other
Chickapigs.
side. Chickapigs, yes, to the other side without slipping in the poop that the cow leaves behind. You can see why our 7 and 8-year-old really enjoy this game.
Yeah, it's very strategic. I would say similar to maybe Chinese checkers, if you're familiar with that, trying to get all of your marbles from one beginning region to across the board. You're trying to get all your Chickapigs across into their pen. But then there's also a lot of blocking. And there's hay bales and cows and poop, as you said. A lot of fun.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
been
a neat
super
game.
fun.
I have also been excited about another Christmas gift, the Prelude expansion to Terraforming Mars. And we had a chance to play that, I think, just last night with our gaming group.
It was 2 nights ago, but
2
yeah,
nights
we
ago.
broke that out with our regular gaming group. And the whole idea there is that you start out a little bit further down the track in your terraforming process. So you have a couple of resources already at your disposal, and it kind of kickstarts the game. And I think it definitely worked the way we expected it and added an element of fun.
Yeah, I think where I was burning out a little bit on Terraforming Mars is that it's so slow to get started, and so then the game maybe slightly overstays its welcome. But you're absolutely right. You get there are all these prelude cards that either give you some kind of production of something, it kind of guides you, gives you a little head start. So it sort of jump starts the game just a little bit and probably shortens it by a round or two, which translates to probably at least 30 minutes off the game. So I actually had a good time using the Prelude expansion. I can't imagine ever playing it without it at this point.
Yeah, I think we'll stick with that. The other game that we got new over the Christmas holiday was Arboretum, which is kind of a simple, at first glance, little card game, but there's definitely some complexity in how you organize your arboretum as you're building and laying out your trees. I'm still not sure I understand what that complexity is. We're learning.
Yeah, I think this is a game that you and I will probably play a bunch because it's fast and it's interesting and just the type of game that I think will be easy for us to break out on a school night.
Definitely.
I think we'll probably talk about that one on the show at some point
we
in
should.
2019. Maybe Chickapig also.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Mamie. Well, we have a lot of ground to cover, so if it's okay with you, why don't we jump right into our topic of the week?
Sounds good.
All right, so 2018 was quite a year for gaming for us. As we mentioned, we started this podcast, which was a big thing.
A very big thing. And we went to our first 2 gaming conventions.
Yeah, we went to the Whose Turn convention right here in Durham, a
Which
local
is coming
con.
up again next month. This month.
2 weeks.
Wow, that's soon. Yay.
2 weeks from today, we'll be there.
That's very exciting.
Yeah. And then a big thing, we went to our first big national convention. We went to Dice Tower Con.
Which was amazing. And we've already bought our tickets for this year.
Yeah, so if anybody's going to Dice Tower Con this year, let us know. We would love to see you there and play some games. But Mamie, as you know, and as I think I've talked about on the show, I am somewhat consistent about keeping stats on my board game plays.
Somewhat. I would say it's almost a religion for you.
Yeah, it doesn't count if you don't log it. And actually, I have logged my plays, at least on Board Game Geek, forever. I mean, really since the beginning, 2004, 5.
You like your statistics.
But I've kept more and more stats as time goes by, and I got BG Stats, which is a great app. So anyway, it makes it very easy to look at our stats for the previous year. So Mamie, just to run through some stats at what an amazing year of gaming this was for us, we played 423 games.
That's amazing.
This year. That's plays.
Right.
Plays. And that represents 112 unique games, of which 72 were new to us this year. So we played 72 games we had never played before just this year.
That is impressive. How many were new to us last year?
I'm glad you asked. So I mentioned we played 423 plays this year. Last year we played 227. So almost doubled.
Wow.
And we gamed a lot last year, too.
I know. That's what I
and
was thinking.
We played 74 unique games last year, of which 37 were new to us.
Okay. So we've almost doubled all of those numbers this year.
Yeah. So in the last 2 years, we've played 109 new games.
That's awesome. Do you think we'll keep this trajectory?
I think it'll be hard to play more games.
I was going to say.
And I think I think it would be hard to keep pace with 2018. We really gamed pretty hard in 2018. And you know what's really amazing about that is we, as we mentioned more recently on the show, we hardly gamed at all in October and November. So the bulk of that was during 10 months, was really January through September and then December.
That is gaming definitely at least once a week, right? I mean, we did for most of the year. We were gaming at least once a week and many weeks twice a week.
We played games on 171 days last year.
That's half the year, almost.
Almost.
Math is not my strength. That's amazing. I'm proud of us.
I am proud of us. And you know, beyond that, one resolution that we had last year, and I don't think we talked about this on the show because I think we talked about this before the podcast actually started. In 2017, when we had played 227 games and 74 unique games, I think we really had this idea that what we wanted to do in 2018 was really focus and make sure we played games more. We weren't just playing games one time, but we really were enjoying the games we had and playing them multiple times.
Right, getting replays, because that's where you really start to understand the complexity and the depth of a game.
Yeah, and we had the resolution. I mean, I remember because we wrote this down. I found it. We wanted to play. A lot of people do the 10 for 10. They want to play 10 games at least 10 times. But we decided that might be hard to do. We were going to play 10 games at least 5 times. Well, I'm happy to report that we played 8 games 10 or more times. And we played 24 games, additional games on top of that, 5 or more times. Yeah, that's pretty cool, huh? So we actually, not only we play a lot of games, but we played a lot of games a lot of times. So.
And that was part of our goal. We stuck with that. And we have met so many people and played games with so many people. I feel like it's been really a part of our, if not the main core of our social life this year in a really great way.
Yeah, and one thing I also started tracking this year, which is very easy to do with the BG Stats app, is I really like to track who are the people we play with. And so there are 61 different people that we logged by name that we played games with in 18 different locations.
So the conventions have to play a part of that because we don't have 61 friends that play games.
Well, but you know what's interesting is, so the app has the ability to also just put anonymous players. And so certainly at the cons, there were some folks we met and got to know their names and played multiple games with who I did log by name, but not everyone. So, there were about 100 people total, including anonymous people, but 61 that we actually got to know enough that we knew their name and were either friends or became friends. But either way, I think that's pretty cool.
That's impressive. I wonder how many people we introduced games to. That would be an interesting thing to track because that's also been something we've been almost game evangelists this year. Yeah,
we have. We have certainly invited people to play games. We've had some people reach out to us and ask our advice, especially around the holiday time, about games that they might make good gifts. And that's one thing I hope we continue in 2019 is, introducing people to games we think they will like. And New Year's was a good example of that, I thought. We had some folks over who aren't necessarily gamers.
No, there were definitely groans when Josh is like, let's play a game.
But one thing that I take very seriously is almost like being a game sommelier.
Knowing your audience.
Yeah, and so I knew the audience, and I thought, here's a new party game that I think that this group will like. And I was actually getting tired of it, and they wanted to keep playing. And so I thought that was really cool.
No, it was definitely a hit.
Yeah. So anyway, hopefully 2019 will continue the great gaming with the great people and make some more fun board gaming memories.
I'm looking forward to it.
So without further ado, why don't we get into some of our favorite games we played this year? So we actually did something similar earlier this year. So back in episode 5, we talked about our favorite new to us games of 2017. And so what we didn't want to do is just focus on new games, meaning games that came out this year. But of all these games that were new to us, what are the ones that stood out? So we did that last year, and we were going to do that again this year. But Mamie, I wanted to remind you of the games that you said were your favorite from last year.
Ooh, okay.
And see if you still agree that they're some of your favorite games.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I don't remember.
I know. So apparently we had a hard time picking, just like last year. So we actually cheated and did top 6.
Sounds right.
So I will tell you your top 6 from last year were Resistance Avalon, King Domino, Modern Art, Isle of Skye, Scythe, and Dixit.
That's hilarious because I'm not sure we played any of those games in 2018.
We did, actually. You played Dixit like this week.
That's true. Dixit, I've definitely continued to play and continue to really enjoy. It definitely has its place. And King Domino.
Yeah, we played King Domino 17 times this year.
King Domino is a favorite, especially the kids love it. It's a good family game.
Were you here when we played Scythe the other night?
No, I wasn't. I missed Scythe.
Yeah.
Scythe, I still enjoy those games. We've just been so busy with new games and other games that we haven't gotten some of those back to the table. I love Modern Art too. How come we haven't played that?
Yeah, well, that one was on my list too. So my top 6 for last year, new to us games, were also King Domino, Galaxy Trucker, Battle Line, Modern Art, Castles of Burgundy, and Splotter Games, Food Chain Magnate, Indonesia, Great Zimbabwe. I feel like I was extra poor at playing some of these games that were some of my favorites.
Well, we will say that in 2018, some of those games on your list and my list, but more on yours, are kind of heavier games that take longer chunks of time. And 2018 was a busy year, which is part of why I'm impressed that we played as many games as we did. A lot of the games we were playing were games that were not hours of time to be invested in them. So that might be why some of those haven't made it to the table. But I think we should try to bring a variety of those games back in 2019.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I miss them.
I know. Maybe we will buy no new games in 2019.
Did you guys all hear that? He just said, buy no new games in 2019.
I will do my best to buy.
Can all of our
fewer
listeners
games.
hold you to that? Because I think that would be amazing. I mean, we have 4 lovely Kallax shelves here full of games, some of which we love and don't play very often.
I mean, let's be honest. The reality is, if we bought no new games in 2019, we could still have an amazing and varied year of gaming.
Yes.
Lifetime of gaming, really.
Let's do it.
Let's try really hard. Actually, I've already failed because, as we mentioned, I didn't fail because it was New Year's Eve when I went to our game store and bought a party game to play at our New Year's Eve party.
Okay, so
I actually have not bought any new games yet. Let's see how long I last.
Okay, we'll test this.
So,
we'll
audience,
let you
we
know.
will take predictions for how far into 2019 we get before I purchase a new game.
We can start a pool.
Yeah. So tweet to us, email us, post in the guild your bets on when we will break this rule. All right. So why don't we jump in, and of those 112 games we played, what were our top 5? All right, Mamie. So this was really hard.
Yeah, it was tough. I'm not sure what criteria you used to select your list. I had a tough time, but I kind of decided to just go with my gut. And so I went with the 5 games that really stood out amongst all the mini games that we played this year.
So before you get into that, did you have any honorable mentions that just missed the cut?
I had a few. I will say Dominant Species for me just missed the cut. And I think the reason it missed the cut for me is that I haven't played it very much.
Yeah.
If I really loved the 2 times that I have played, but it's only been 2 times. And so I think, a few more plays and that would have made the list. Tzolk'in was an honorable mention for me. I really enjoy it. It's unique. I love that game board that has the gears that turn, but it just wasn't quite. If I had to narrow it to 5, it didn't make the list. And then my third, there's no way we can do 5. I know I'm up to 8. My third honorable mention would go to Strike, which is just a really simple little dice game, but I think it's the game we've probably played the most games of.
That was our most played game with 20 plays.
That doesn't surprise me at all because it's quick, it's fun, the kids love it, it's exciting, and we get really competitive with it. And so that one is a lot of fun, but almost too light to make the list.
Yeah, no, those are great choices. Some of which might show up later in my list.
Oh, what about your honorable? Did you have honorable mentions?
I did have some honorable mentions for sure. One was Gloomhaven. That was a game, I think earlier in the year we were really playing a ton, and I don't know what really happened. I think we got to the point we were purchasing a lot of games. We got a lot of new games, and I think it was one of those games when we had it out, set up, we would play it pretty regularly, but once we put it away, it was hard to break it out as much. But I did just get my new kickstarted player mats for Gloomhaven, which I kickstarted like 6 months ago. So maybe Gloomhaven will rekindle itself this year. And also, I put on the list Gaia Project. That's another one that we played quite a few times that is just a really neat game. Just missed my top 5. I totally agree with Zulkin. I'd say Zulkin might have been my number 6. When I get to my number 5, it really battled with my number 5 to be on the list. Such a unique game. And then Root is another one that I think is kind of neat, a neat game, but I just feel like we haven't quite locked in with Root yet. So I didn't put it on the list.
I think all of those make sense, and they're all games that we have definitely enjoyed and will play more in 2019.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to the game Downforce. I feel like that is a game that I couldn't really put on my list. I can't say it's one of my top games, but I feel like it's a game that fits a really nice niche in our collection. Like it's a really kind of quick but not fluffy game that's very approachable for new players. It's beautiful. It's well produced. It's a lot of fun. One that we actually played quite a bit. It was kind of a go-to game for either a warm-up or when we had sort of some casual people coming over to play some games. So
that one's a lot of fun. I mean, little wooden race cars. That's awesome.
I know. I think they're plastic, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah, they are.
All right, Mamie. Well, I'm itching to know what your list, and I want everybody to know, too, we have not seen each other's lists. So I'm hearing this for the first time, what you picked, and you're hearing what I chose for the first time.
Okay, so how do we want to do this? You want me to count down from my number 5? We'll take turns.
Let's count down, and if we have overlap, we won't find out until we'll just go through it.
All right. Well, my number 5 game on my list is one that Josh already mentioned in his honorable mentions. And this is a game that has been number 1 on Board Game Geek for much of 2018. It was Gloomhaven. As Josh said, this is a game we played a lot early in the year. I think we haven't had it on the table lately, but it was so much fun. When I went back and I looked at the list, it jumped out at me and I was like, oh yeah, I remember how much fun we had playing that. I want to get back to it. It's described as Euro-inspired tactical combat in an evolving campaign. I mean, what's not to love about that?
Yeah, you like the evolving campaign.
I do. I love the evolving campaign. I have to admit, honestly, when you first started talking about Gloomhaven, and even when you purchased it and we were looking at all the components and all the different miniatures, I wasn't sure I would like it. It's not the kind of game that we typically play.
Yeah, you were skeptical.
I was very skeptical, but I loved it. Like, I loved getting into character, and I even tried to paint my miniature. It didn't go very well, but she's purple, so that makes her fun. And, I remembered how much fun we had playing it. I think we might need to get that one out and just leave it on the table for a few weeks.
Well, I think we will. I am now re-inspired with those new playmats that just came in the mail. So.
How much of us not playing was you waiting to get the playmats?
I will say in the last 3 months, I've had a few minor itches to play Gloomhaven and held off because I wanted to wait till the playmats. And I know, Mamie, you have expressed that you actually are a fan of playmats where everything has a place.
I do. I love a playmat. So
and Gloomhaven has a lot of stuff, so these have a place for all your stuff.
They're nice. I'm excited about them. Okay, so what was your number 5?
All right, well, my number 5 was Orleans.
Ah, good pick.
So Orleans, it's funny, I think we have talked about Orleans multiple times on this show. It was, I think, both of our favorite game that we explored for the first time at Dice Tower Con and really jumped out at us. And so since then, I've upgraded with these premium bits from Board Game Geek. But it's just the whole bag builder concept is so interesting because, I think we both love the deck builder concept. But the fact that you do that with these little discs of workers that you have to draw out and think about what combination you want to play them, to do different actions, to maximize your points. Just really, really unique and fun gameplay. So that's why that one was my number 5.
All right, so number 4. My number 4 game I had not even heard about until we attended Dice Tower Con in July. But then suddenly there was this little bunny everywhere. And despite the fact that it wasn't available in the US, it was everywhere. So my number 4 is The Mind. And I'm still not 100% sure that this game lives up to like all the hype that it was getting. But it's really unique, and we have had so much fun, and it's a game that I feel like we can take anywhere and play with anybody, and so it had to be on my list.
Well, I'm glad it was, because my number 4 was also The Mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, The Mind is really fantastic, and in my mind,
in your mind, The Mind.
That's funny. It totally lived up to the hype for me. For a little card game, I guarantee we have not had more fun per dollar spent.
No, that is true.
Than The Mind.
Mean, there has been literal nail biting and screaming and celebration. It's a great little game.
Yeah, I would still at this point, and we played this game a bunch, would never turn down a game. And I actually look forward to taking it, like taking it camping or just anywhere with friends. So
I still keep thinking I'm going to take it and play it with my students. I just haven't yet. I need to do that in the new year.
Yeah, could be fun. All right, Mamie, what was your number 3?
So my number 3 was actually Josh's number 5, Orleans.
Good choice.
Yeah. I mean, as Josh said, it was a game that it's not new. It came out in 2014, but it was new to us. And as soon as we finally understood what we were doing and got through that first gameplay, we both loved it. That the bag building aspect of it's just the kind of game that we really enjoy playing. It's the right amount of weighty decision making, but not too fiddly. It's one I'd pretty much always be willing to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was your number 3?
All right. Well, my number 3 was sort of a game that came out in 2018. It's actually a game that was reprinted and a new edition came out in 2018, and that is Container.
Ah.
Yeah, so Container, actually I played at a game day not too long ago. Someone had the original copy, and this one pushed all the right buttons for me. I like an economic game quite a bit, and this one, to me, is just so streamlined and simple. And I know a lot of folks consider Container to be a heavier game, but in my opinion, I think you could really play Container with a lot of different people, because the rules overhead is pretty straightforward, pretty easy to grasp. The money in the game deals with like denominations of $1, $2, $3.
I love that. I love that the math is very simple.
Yeah, there are other games that we play that are economic, like I'm thinking of Indonesia, for example, where you have to calculate
or the 18xx games that you have to make a spreadsheet to understand.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I have my laptop next to us, but definitely Container. There's not even this math burden to play it, and with the jumbo edition, these hysterically giant.
Could be used as a weapon if there was home invasion.
Yeah, Mamie walks the dog at night. I send her out with one of the ships from Container for safety. But I've had a blast, and for some reason, for a dry economic game, we always have a lot of laughs playing it too. So that was my number 3, Container.
Part of those laughs come from inventing what's in the containers, but it is a very fun game.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Although the brown always end up being the poop containers. I don't know why.
Chocolate. Those are chocolate.
Oh, okay. That's probably better.
Or coffee. I mean, there's lots of things that are brown that aren't poop.
That's true. Maybe it's just me.
All right. So where are we? Number 2?
Number 2.
All right. So my number 2 game is another game that wasn't new. In fact, it was originally produced in 2010, but it was updated and re-released in 2016. And it made the list not only because is it kind of exactly the type of game that we love, but it's also a theme that's near and dear to our hearts. So my number 2 game was Vinhos. I won't go into too much detail about why I love it. We talk about that.
We did a whole episode.
Episode 15. Yes, You can go check that one out. But it's, a Euro game about wine. What else is there to say? I loved it. It had to make the list. So it came in at my number 2. What was your number 2?
Well, I really do promise our listeners we in no way compared notes at all. We actually wrote these down on separate Google Docs. But my number 2 was also Vinos Deluxe Edition.
Yes. I left out the deluxe edition part, but that's maybe because I've never played the original
Well,
edition.
I added it in because recently I was able to play the original edition, which is pretty different. So, yeah, Vinos, like Mamie said, we spent a whole episode talking about it and extolling our praise on Vinos. It's a fun game. It's a heavier Euro game with lots of decisions to make. It's beautifully produced, and it's about wine. So what is not to like?
Exactly. It's lovely.
And I am really excited in 2019. One of my gaming resolutions is to flip the board over and play that original version of Vinos, but with the updated graphics. I think you would like it.
I'm definitely up for that. All right. Are we at number 1?
We're number 1 already. The moment we have all been waiting for, at least the moment I've been waiting for, to know your favorite game. And now I'm trying to guess because...
Oh, okay. Let's play that.
Well,
What
I
do you
have
think?
to admit, I really, really thought you were going to put Orleans at number 1.
Oh.
So now I am unsure.
It might be a surprise.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Well, it might be a surprise because it is a game we haven't played.
Keyforge.
No, didn't even make my honorable mention. Sorry. I will say it's a game we haven't played a lot, and you mentioned it in your honorable mentions, but I have to say the game that's kind of like right at the front of my mind right now is the most unique and most interesting game I played in 2018 is Root. It is a new game and new to the, not just us, but the world in 2018. And we have just really enjoyed it. I love that it's different depending on which faction you're playing. That's just so unique. And I've only had the opportunity to play 2 different factions. I can't wait to try to play the other roles. And the components are absolutely adorable. The little mice and birds and rabbits. No.
And Vagabond, the little raccoon.
The little raccoon. Yes, I love the raccoon.
You haven't played
and
the raccoon
owls.
yet.
I don't know that
There's
I
no
will.
owls. There's just birds.
Birds. What are cats? I always think the cats are owls because they look
That's
like
true.
owls.
They do have sort of owl eyes.
So obviously, I'm very well versed in this game.
Love the snakes and the giraffes,
That's the expansion that we don't have yet, right?
the narwhals. Oh, so fun. I love Root.
But Root it's just been super fun, and it's just so unique and so different than anything else I'd ever played. So those are the things that brought it to number 1 on my list.
No, I think that's a great choice. And, I feel like, and again, the only reason I mentioned this briefly, that I think this did not quite make the cut for me is I feel like I haven't played it enough for it to really show itself for all it is. I feel like it's a game that we have been underappreciating almost because, most of the times that we've played Root so far, and I think I've played it at least 4 or 5, 6 times, but I think they've always been with new or different players.
That's true.
And so I spend a lot of time teaching the game. I'm usually the one who ends up teaching the game. I like teaching games. But man, in some ways it's a bear to teach because even though each individual faction is unique, you have to do 4 different teaches to each different person. But I think it's the game that if you played several times with the same people who really knew how to play, there's a lot of interesting strategy and gameplay that could go on. So I would be pretty excited to experience that in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I put it at number 1 because I feel like there is so much there still to be revealed, so much that we still don't understand, and so many different facets to the game.
I think it's one of those games, and I still know people like this, but back when Catan was all the rage, and again, I know some people now who Catan is still their family's game, and they've played it dozens and dozens of times. I think this would be a really cool competitive game to play with your family or a close group of friends if you played it dozens and dozens of times, where you were just intimately familiar with the more nuanced strategies and you weren't afraid to, and I think if you weren't afraid to attack each other, because I think you really have to.
You can't be kind.
You can't be kind because if you don't, someone else is going to win.
Right. Usually the vagabond.
Usually the vagabond. You gotta, that's pro tip. You gotta hit the vagabond. And I usually have been the vagabond and I win because
people are, people are new to playing it and we play with nice people. Maybe we need to find some more
meaner people.
Some more, cutthroat gaming buddies.
Well, and the thing about the Vagabond, not to get too much into Root, but if you're new to playing the game, he's not really messing with you at all. I mean, it's like, oh, that's nice. He gave me a card. That's so great.
Except he's getting stronger
And
stronger.
And then he kills you.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, good choice, Mamie. Good choice on Root.
We definitely have to get that on the table more in 2019.
Definitely.
Okay, I can't wait. What was your number one?
All right, Mamie. My number one was one of your honorable mentions. And this is a game that I just love, and I think I will continue to love it for a long time, and that's Dominant Species. And I don't know what else to say. I've mentioned it before, but this game is just so fun to play. Every time I've played it, I've had a blast. I mean, again, similar to Container, I feel like the rules in general aren't too hard to understand, but the gameplay is all about how players interact with one another, and that's so fun for me.
I would say it and Root have a lot of things in common because, again, you have to be willing to be sort of cutthroat.
Yeah, you do. And there's something about Dominant Species where it feels okay.
Yeah, because you're just, hitting the food chain the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And I think I like the theme of that because I think both of you and I, Mamie, we're not huge war game people, but it makes the conflict a little more palatable, I think. But yeah, Dominant Species is great. And one thing, Mamie, that you probably don't know about, but slated for 2019 is a new Dominant Species Marine.
Ooh.
Is scheduled to come out, and I was actually I don't know a whole lot about
Maybe
this.
there actually are narwhals.
Well, I was looking at it, and here's a mock-up of the board by the designer Chad Jensen, and it looks similar in some ways. Instead of the tundra in the middle, there's this coral reef that's in the middle, and it looks like the food chain. There are only 4 species, so this leads me to believe this might be smaller in scope instead of a 6-player game,
Which could be nice.
It could be nice.
Different niche.
Yeah, you
Are there sharks?
Well, you assume the role of one of 4 major aquatic-based animal classes: dinosaur, fish, cephalopod, or crustacean.
Dinosaur?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Well, I think it takes place right after the end of the Ice Age.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we may have to check that out. But I want to get regular Dominant Species on the table some more first.
Yeah, we got to. Actually, I am considering doing a teaching game of Dominant Species at Hoostern.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right, Mamie. Well, this was really fun to reflect back on a great year of gaming. And when we think about 2018, games played a huge part of our life this year. And certainly, I think, added a lot of value and texture to our year.
Definitely. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what 2019 brings. Not new games, but more plays of all these games we have on our shelves now.
That is an honorable pursuit.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Cardboard and Wine. For show notes, links, and other fun info about the games we discuss on the show, you can visit our website at cardboardandwine.com.
If you have feedback on the show or suggestions for a future show, you can send us a tweet at Board and Wine, email us cardboardandwine@gmail.com, or jump into our guild on Board Game Geek.
You can also leave us a review on iTunes. We'd love to hear from you. And this is a way that new listeners can find the show.
All right, everyone. Happy New Year. And until next time,
Cheers and happy gaming.